It's important to have a person who aligns with you emotionally. It's working together towards goals. It's being on the same page as much as possible. And it's loving each other and respecting each other as human beings.
Shout out to our sponsor, Local Cold Brew Coffee. Welcome to Book BFFs, the show that celebrates wonderful people and the books they're inspired by. I'm your host, Jenny Valdez, and today we are here with entrepreneur Nico Norena. How are you, Nico?
Hey, Jenny. Good to see you. Good. Thank you. How about you?
Good. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to get into your mindset and how you've been able to create and build a name for yourself and make it to Forbes 30 under 30.
I appreciate you. I'm very, very excited to be here with you and chat all about it and about the book that we're here to chat today.
Yes.
Very excited.
So for the people that might not know who you are or tuning in for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm a passionate foodie at heart. I created Succulent Bite in 2015 and have been working at it ever since. I am a family person. I am happily married. I love my home. And I also am an avid entrepreneur and content creator on social media.
I love this. You seem to have a well-balanced life. I'm here for this.
That's part of what we'll talk about today. Yes. A good balance, 100%.
Let's go. So what made you choose Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've had a vision of since I was little that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be independent, and I wasn't exactly sure what that meant, how to get there, and what were some of the steps that I needed to take in order to be able to achieve this dream, right, and this goal. And this book changed my life. I read it while I was in college, I believe, and it was I read it a little bit later while post-graduating college, and it opened up my eyes to a lot of different avenues and gave me a lot of answers and it gave me a lot of perspective, and it really changed my mindset and it changed the way I looked at things, and it allowed me to build and exponentially grow as a content creator, as an entrepreneur, and as a human being overall.
Wow. Was your dad an entrepreneur?
My dad, no, not necessarily. No, my dad, no, my mom either. My uncle is who, on my mom's side, is who I consider to be the entrepreneurial image of the family, if you will. And I think he is one of the ones who inspired me since the beginning to pursue that avenue, or to at least consider it. And he actually recommended this book at some point in my life, but it took me years to eventually get to it and finally read it.
So what made you get to it? Was it because you said after college? So I'm curious to know, when you graduated, were you just kind of what do I do in my life now?
No, well, look, when I graduated, I was working at a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company in sales. Wonderful company, honestly. And it was fantastic, great experience. And what happened was that I knew I wanted to transition into eventually being a full-time Succulent Bite, right? So what were some of the steps that I needed to take in order to get there? And I recalled my uncle recommending this book to me. And I said, you know what, let's give it a shot. I personally have not been a person who reads necessarily, but I'm more into audiobooks. So I downloaded it on Audible and I said, let's check it out and let's see what this is all about. And I used to, as a a rep in my role back then, I had to drive around the city a lot. So I would listen to the book in the car, obviously from point A to point B, between meetings. And I would just, instead of listening to music, I would play that in the morning. Okay. So I used to drive, and it gave me so much insight and so much perspective that, it was perfectly timed.
Wow. What was one of the biggest insights that this book gave you?
I think that it has to be the mindset that comes with becoming an entrepreneur, right? And that is, being able to have a healthy balance between work and life, being able to understand the differences between assets and liabilities, understanding the importance of financial intelligence, and knowing the power of what surrounding yourself with good people can mean to you in the future, and in the present, of course.
Yes. Yeah. Really powerful. One of the biggest takeaways from this book that I received was the differentiation of assets and liabilities. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the way that it's described in the book, it's very straightforward. It says, a liability takes money out of your pocket, an asset puts money into your pocket, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take an example. Your home, right? That's most accountants will tell you, your home is an asset. And technically it can be, but technically it's not if you're living in it, right? Why? Because if we go by that same principle of assets versus liabilities and putting money in and out of your pocket, if you're living in your home and you're paying a mortgage, it's only taking money out. The moment you move away from that home into a new one or into a new apartment or new living space and you rent that home, it becomes an asset, right? Because that's when it begins, you rent it out to somebody else. If it gives you, good cash flow, right? Then you'll be able to have, positive cash flow, if you will. Yeah. If you're able to rent it for the proper amount. So that is another learning that I had from the book. And that was understanding cash flow and what that means and the definition. So
yes, I want to talk more about that because I am a homeowner.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Same.
So for me, my mindset was my house is an asset.
Correct.
And then after seeing this book, I'm like, wait, my house isn't an asset in the eyes of the author, right?
Yeah.
And when he explains it, I was like, this is a very interesting perspective on it, right? Because in my eyes, it's an asset, just an unpaid asset.
Correct.
Because I have to finish paying it off.
Correct.
But I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. How would it work if I need, like, for anybody listening, right? If you want to own a piece of property, you would suggest buying an apartment and then paying rent somewhere else? Like, how would that work?
No, not necessarily. And this is not my suggestion. This is my analysis based on the book, right? I think what my takeaway was, if the first step is obviously, own that piece of land or own assets, smaller assets, maybe if you invest in the stock market or in other forms of real estate, for example, that will generate you passive income or that cash flow that will allow you to then save up and put that first down payment for that new house, right? And then, you live in it, of course, but then you keep playing that game, you keep investing that money so that it creates more cash flow so that you can get a second property. And then that first property becomes an asset because you move out of it. And then it begins compounding in your favor and the dollars start working for you. And yes, maybe with some of what you have left over from that house, you can begin investing into the new house and then you begin paying that as well. So it all starts kind of, flowing together.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, I didn't necessarily do it that way, right?
Right, me neither. That's why I was curious when I heard that. And I was like, wait, what am I missing here? So it's cool to know that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it that way. I saved up and paid for the down payment.
Same.
And then my mortgage, right? But then obviously, as I read this book and as I listened to this book, I began understanding the importance of having additional revenue streams, right? And being able to create an asset column is what he talks about. Right. It's an asset column that generates money for you on your behalf without you having to be there. And that allows you to pay for all those other liabilities. So if we move into, for example, cars, which is something, a very popular topic around the world, and here in Miami especially, I think, it's not necessarily savvy to purchase that car with, your own dollars, but it would rather be more intelligent to do that using the dollars that are generated from that passive income in those investments you have, because then the car is technically free, right? It's technically you're not it's the dollars working for the car, not you for the car. Again, that's not something that I've achieved yet, but it's definitely the mindset that I have in order to be able to arrive to that and get there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have a good foundation. This gave you the foundation and the guidance that you were seeking, which is great.
Exactly. But the whole point of this is to share why, this book enlightened me so much, because without having the knowledge that I have now, perhaps I would not pursue that path, right? And I would not be able to already be on track to achieving that financial freedom, if you will.
Right. Yeah. How did you start the Succulent Bite?
Man, I started out of passion for food, for photography. When I went in high school, I took years of videography, and I was an anchor in the morning news, right? In the morning show.
Oh,
yeah. I was an anchor in the morning show. Yeah. And I used to, I used to read the morning announcements and say what we had for lunch and all the good stuff. And I think that's what kind of inspired me to explore being in front of the camera, creating my own content later on in life, right? With the Succulent Bite. So that's kind of how it was born. I started documenting my experiences with food, and slowly but surely it began accumulating an audience, and I began understanding what my audience wanted to see, what they didn't want to see, and learning strategy on how to grow that audience and make it what it is today.
And then you created a patent, no?
I trademarked. Yes, I trademarked the succulent bite, correct. Which was another important part of my development as an entrepreneur. And that's the importance of business structure, right? You need to have financial literacy in order to be able to say, okay, if I have a brand, it might be obvious to a lot of people because of the internet and there's a lot of videos that talk about this these days, maybe not 20, 30 years ago, but but today it is reality. Yeah, exactly. So most people might tell me, well, duh, Nico, if you have an idea, you have a brand, you're going to go trademark that brand and you're going to incorporate that and have an accountant and, and pay your taxes and learn about pre-tax and post-tax dollars. But maybe that's not necessarily, it wasn't obvious for me, when I started. So this is why I feel passionate about it, because, it gave me structure for my own company, The Succulent Bite.
Wow. And so cooking for you was just a passion that you turned into a purpose.
Correct. Yes. Correct. 100%.
Wow. What advice would you give anybody who's like, I'm really passionate about this. How can I start to turn this into a business?
Well, I'd say that you have to be very committed to what you want to do. I think you have to have very clear ideas as to, and execute those ideas. Have a plan on how you're going to execute. But most importantly, be disciplined, because I think, passion and motivation take you only to a certain point. But, there's ups and downs in the life of an entrepreneur. There's emotions. We're human beings. There's days where we feel, committed to conquer the world. And there's days where we feel like the world is conquering us. And what are we going to do? Right? Yeah. So that's where discipline kicks in. That's where you say, you know what? If you're suffering from that imposter syndrome where it's like, oh, am I really capable? Is my idea actually good? That's where discipline kicks in and says, no, yes, you are. You can do this. Keep going, power through, go against all odds, because at the end of the day, it can pay off very big in multiple ways, not just economically, but emotionally speaking, and the feeling of achievement that you might get as a human being and as a professional. But hey, everybody's in their own path, right? But for those who are following that path, I think those would be my 2 cents.
Right. What's one of the difficulties you've had to overcome in your business?
In what sense? Would you say emotionally? Would you say as a business?
In whatever sense. Like in whatever sense. It could have been like an emotional turmoil where you're like, I'm not generating. I think I'm going to close this down. Or does this even work? Or maybe it was a certain business deal that didn't fall through. Yeah.
I think it's a variety of things. So on the emotional side, it's understanding that it takes time and understanding that you will build to where you want to get to. So patience was at the beginning one of my biggest not, I wouldn't say setbacks, but challenges, mental challenges. That's where the discipline kicked in and said, hey man, you gotta breathe and you gotta stay on track. And that's something that one of my personal favorite entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk, he speaks a lot about that. And that is patience. And that is the importance of saying, you're gonna build, you're on track. You just gotta keep at it, be consistent, be determined, and you'll eventually get there. So that was one of the components that I found challenging, but I overcame. Another one was definitely when you say business deals not going through, right? Because, you start questioning, but why? Why are they not going through? Is it me? Is it them? Is it us? What's going on? Do I need to make any changes? But I think, that wasn't necessarily a challenge. I think that it was more of an opportunity for growth, in the sense that there's times where you learn, right? Because the fear of rejection is one thing that really stops a lot of people from pursuing their dreams. And I think it's subconscious and conscious and subconscious. Nobody likes when they say no. That rejection is something that not everybody knows how to handle. But I think that, for example, going back to the example of the business deals, when a company or a brand says, we're not gonna work with you on this specific opportunity. In the beginning, I might have gotten frustrated. I said, oh, but I started overthinking and doubting, and I'm like, is it me? Is it them? What did I do? I said, okay, let's take this as an opportunity for learning. And I asked, hey, so instead of macerating in my emotions and not thinking, oh, what is it? No, I just asked, hey, so, I'd love to have some clarity as to why we're not pursuing this opportunity. Completely understand it might not be a good time, but I really just want to know for my own personal growth. And more often than not, it's not me. It's simply that the brand is no longer pursuing that campaign, or they went with other talent that fit better for that specific campaign, and that's okay. It's part
Yes.
of business and it's part of growing. And I said, you know what? Awesome, because that one doesn't work, but 5 others do. And it's that bigger picture mentality and that bigger picture vision that you need to keep,
Exactly.
alive.
Rejection is redirection.
Correct. Yeah,
100%.
100%.
I'm sure you get this a lot too. Oh, you're so lucky.
Huh.
You're so lucky. Everything
Yeah.
just works in your favor. You
Yeah.
have the marriage, you have the business, you have the money. Oh, you're so lucky.
Well, let me right? Let me begin by expressing gratitude towards the universe and towards life, because I don't take it for granted, and it's definitely not only luck. I am very grateful. I am very blessed, and I am aware of that. And I am eternally, every single morning, I thank whoever I need to be thanking for the opportunities that have been given to me, for the family that I have, for being able to build what I love and love what I build. But I also tell those people that tell me, oh, it just kind of happened. No, it didn't just kind of happen. It was years of discipline and tenacity and working hard and working 2 jobs and, finishing one and going into the early morning, working on my own passion because I needed to give it my 100%. I give it, okay, so here's one thing about me. I give my 100% to whatever I'm committed to. I might not commit to a lot of things at once because I want to give it my best. But, when I'm committed, I'm committed. So when I had that 9 to 5 job, I was committed and I excelled and I was great at it. And I earned awards for it. In the meantime, I was committed to growing my own, company on the side. And, what did that mean? It meant working from 6 to 11 every day. It meant going after work to film at different locations. It meant, understanding that I needed to put in extra hours. But you know what? The reward was immense. And it still is something that I'm working on to keep growing and keep expanding. So when people say, hey, oh, it just kind of happened. Well, no, it didn't just kind of happen. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're not seeing everything else that went under it. The sleepless nights, the emotional ups and downs, huge one, by the way, huge one. The emotional ups and downs, dealing with that it's important to be able to do that. The support system that you need, your family, your friends, finding the right person to spend your life with, that's a blessing, man. And that's something that it worked out. And yeah, so I don't think that anything has been given, just because. I think everything has been worked for and strategically,
Yes.
dedicated time to
Hard work. And
yeah.
you're a good person. The universe is going to give good things to good people.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
It doesn't just happen that way.
Correct.
you
Yeah.
know? But I want to go over those 3 layers that you mentioned, which was the emotional up and downs, finding a life partner, and your family support.
Yes.
So let's talk about the first one, which is
Emotional up and downs.
emotional up and downs.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that going back to we briefly touched on this earlier, and that was having that imposter syndrome, if you will, where you might have self-doubt and having that overwhelmingness of joy when you're really killing it, right? And you have to be right in the middle. And there was one mentor who once told me, never get too high on your highs or too low on your lows. Maintain a zen, right? And the reason why is because, and I found great value in that, is because you can't be all over the place, right? You can't be super, it's okay to get excited and it's okay to feel sad, but it's not, you have to try and keep it as balanced as possible to maintain like internal homeostasis and good well-being for the years to come, so that it's sustainable, right? Because you can't live on the super high all the time, like, oh, I'm killing out. Yeah, great. But then you also be like, oh, I'm worthless. No, well, no, you have to have a good balance and a good in between. So learning to overcome that it's a brain exercise. It's affirmations, for example, help me a lot. And saying, Nico, I'm capable. I'm aware. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm capable. I can do this.
So
I believe in what I'm doing. And, those affirmations on a daily basis, they create an impact. And then, of course, taking action on your dreams, right? There's a lot of people who think but don't do, and there's a lot of people who do but don't think. And I think it's
Yes.
important to have a healthy balance between thinking and doing
Right.
and conceptualizing. And I've personally found, and sorry for going on a
No,
monologue
you're
here.
go.
Yeah.
Go. We love this.
I've found that when you have, when you're able to take action on those thoughts that might be keeping you awake at night, that's when you relieve that stress, because you're taking action. And at least for me, that's how it's worked out for me.
Yes.
That's when you take action, that you relieve that stress, and then you start seeing results if you don't see the results that you're looking for, you'll learn something that will help you get to those results eventually. Right?
Powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Thank you for dropping all those jewels. Those
Yeah,
are,
well, no.
those are
Thank you.
gems. Taking them.
Hopefully, yeah.
The second one, finding a life partner.
Yeah.
How are you able to cultivate that, and what does that look like for you?
Well, look, I met Ariana, my beautiful wife.
Shout out Ariana.
Shout out Ariana. I love you. I met Ariana, my beautiful wife, in college. Back then, we were just friends. Whatever. We were both in different chapters of our lives, doing our thing. Whatever. We had a class together. Cool. No big deal. Really, no big deal. Whatever. We're just classmates. Cool.
Yeah.
Years later, we re-encountered. We're at Nixon Sandbar. I was with my friends in a boat. She was with her friends in a boat, and the boats were drifting together because of the tide. And she looked up and she saw me there, and she's like, "Whoa, I know that guy. Let me call him and see, to let them know that they're about to their boat is just, drifted. Their tide is pulling towards our boat, right?" So I pick up. I'm like, "Ariana." I'm like, what's this guy? I haven't heard from her in years, 5-6 years. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, "Are you in the boat next to me?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, hey, what's up?" So whatever. So that sparked our first conversation in a long time. And from there, we began talking and trying to meet up maybe for lunch, casual lunch, catch up, because, she was a friend. It was like, cool. Yeah. Didn't work out. We couldn't make it happen. And we ended up meeting up in Madrid, where I originally grew up. She was there visiting her friend. I was there for my cousin's graduation, and we went for dinner and we kicked it off. And ever since, which was that was probably June 2018, ever since we've been dating. And then we eventually became, boyfriend and girlfriend, and then my fiance, and then my wife. So the progression of that, right? And here's where we're going to answer your question. How does that look like in the eyes of, finding the right partner for you? And I think that it has multiple components. I think that it's important to have a person who aligns with you emotionally. It's a person who respects you. It's a person who you respect, who you align with emotionally as well. It's working together towards goals and objectives, not against each other. It's being on the same page as much as possible. And it's loving each other and respecting each other as human beings. And when you can align on those core values, when you can align on the morals that you have and the perspectives that you have in life, it doesn't matter where you're standing in your career as a professional. That is going to solidify your internal, balance. And that's what's going to also allow you to progress in other areas. Needless to say, she is my anchor in multiple different things. She is my right hand in most of the things we do. We're creating a brand together, which is going to come soon, hopefully. So it's a lot of different things that it's not only love, it's also respect and those other core values that will allow you to find that ideal match. I want to say perfect because we're all human, right? I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. And she's not, and none of us are, right? So we all have our things, and it's just learning to see, how to manage and how to give and take. Yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you, universe, for making those two boats collide.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, I do thank my lucky stars, for real. I really do.
Oh, that's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Thank you for sharing that. And your family support. How did your family support play a role in your growth?
Well, look, we all come from different families. We all have different experiences. Some of us are blessed with having beautiful relationships with our families. Some of us, we don't have, some others don't have that same blessing. But I'm going to speak about my own, experience.
Yes.
I've had family who has been extremely supportive of my dreams ever since I started. Specifically, my mom and my dad. They always encourage me to, pursue what I wanted. They say, okay, if what you want is that job that's going to give you security, do it. And I did it. But then they said, if you're ready to take that next step, take it. We're here for you. Do it. Do what you need to do. and it's interesting because it's not a given. There's a lot of parents that impact, and it's not right or wrong, it's just the way it is, that impact their kids' lives and say, no, you need to find a safe job, right? And stability. Dad number one, poor dad, according to the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. Then Rich Dad comes in and says, no, you need to be financially free. You need to step out of the rat race. You need to be able to grow your own businesses and do what you want to do. So there's no right or and wrong answer. It's just different ways of doing things. But my message here is my parents were supportive in whichever avenue I decided to take. They all they wanted was to see me happy. They wanted me to succeed in whatever I decided to do. And I think that having that unconditional support is key. Is key because it gives you strength. Not that you should rely on that, but it definitely helps, right? And it gives you purpose in some occasions, and it's just nice to have people that are genuinely caring for you and who are there to cheer you on no matter what, right?
Definitely. So would you say your dad was kind of like Rich Dad? Not monetary wise, but in terms of like,
I'd say both my parents represent. I wouldn't say one is one, the other one's the other, because no, for real. Like it's interesting because they were both so flexible, right? Because they both understand the two concepts. It's interesting. My dad, for example, he is a person who is an employee, corporate employee, high paying job. He's very successful. He's a brilliant man, very, very, very brilliant man. But he also, how he would call in his book, minds his own business. What does that mean? He puts his knowledge to work in other ways as well, to put the dollars that he earns to work for him as well, in the form of stock investments or whatever it is. My mom, on the other hand, also, not on the other hand, in addition to, my parents are divorced, by the way, since I was like 5 or 6 years old. But it's interesting. I grew up with two different, perspectives, but at the same time, they align in a lot of different things. So my mom, for example, she was also an employee, high executive in multinational company. And recently she became independent. So she finally took that step as well to become independent. I think it's something that she always wanted to do, but it took her maybe, let's see, her career, it's probably about 30 years to do it, right? She built a beautiful career in the company where she was working for, but then she also understood the values of entrepreneurship because of my uncle, who is her brother, and she understands what that can look like as well. So to give you an answer, I wouldn't say that they each played a specific role. I think that they both had a little bit of both dads in them, right? The rich dad and the poor dad, because they were able to give me both perspectives. They were able to say, you can go down this lane and, this is what you'll get. But you can also explore this other lane, and this is the opportunities that you might find. None of them were able to necessarily guide me step by step like Rich Dad did for Robert Kiyosaki, because maybe they didn't have that expertise, but they did have the concept, and they did encourage me to go out and learn it myself, which I think was, a driver in the beginning as well.
Which is beautiful, because then you were able to formulate your own perspective versus being like, I'm already programmed, this is my way of thinking.
Exactly.
It's like, no, I got a little bit of both, and now I get to choose what I want to do.
Exactly. And knowing that you're not going to be, especially at a young age, right? You're not going to be neglected and say, oh, shame on you for not doing what I told you to do. No,
Yes.
and when you're 19, 20, that opinion matters a lot.
Of course.
And I think,
your parents' opinion's everything.
100%. And I mean, obviously, as you grow older, you start developing your own mindset, your own opinions, and you begin taking input just in a different way, right?
Yeah.
It's not a deal breaker. It's simply, okay, I'll take what I think, I'll analyze. And that's something that's very important, is learning how to take input and not be arrogant about it, not thinking that you know it all, because the reality is you don't. Yeah. And there's always something new to learn, but also being wise and understanding what advice you're willing to take and what is, maybe not take it.
Yeah, being open to receiving and learning, and then taking what resonates and leaving what doesn't.
Correct. Exactly.
Formulating your own mindset.
100%.
One of the things the book mentions is that two of the biggest emotions that humans are driven by is fear and greed.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I'm not sure about the greed portion. I can't really speak to that part maybe you can tell me a little bit about your insight.
No, I want to hear
what you
yours, and
find-
then I'll tell you.
Okay,
my
yeah.
perspective.
I think that fear, the part of fear really resonated with me as well. The reason why I think that was accurate is that some people, or in general, us humans, we sometimes act upon a reaction, right? Or we act in order to avoid a certain feeling. But when you're able to say, okay, what is it that I'm fearful of, and how can I overcome that? Is that fear stopping me from becoming a better version of myself? Then really analyzing, well, what is it that you're fearful of?
Right.
And being able to tackle that head on so you can progress in your journey as a human,
Yeah.
whatever point of view you want to take up on that. But yeah.
Is there something you currently fear right now?
I wouldn't call it fear
Okay.
because I don't think that I'm necessarily fearful, in the business world, at least, right?
Gotcha.
It's more the uncertainty of the new things that I'm building. And it's the uncertainty. I wouldn't say it's fear, but it's uncertainty of, will they work? Will they not work?
Yeah.
So just so you know, just to keep it in perspective, I still face that imposter syndrome sometimes. I still face that self-doubt, and I still have to keep myself accountable, and I still have to say, be patient, it'll get there. Be patient, because at the end of the day, each new project is a new baby. It's a new experience.
Definitely.
It's a new so yeah, I'd say, I wouldn't say fearful, but I'd say uncertainty met with passion and
Beautiful.
certainty, right? So I kind of like just smack it down as much as possible. Yeah.
You give yourself that perspective.
Yeah.
Is there anything you fear in your personal life?
I think that I've had, family members pass from horrible diseases. So I think that I wouldn't necessarily say that it's fear of going through the same, but yeah, I think the one thing I ask is, whenever I have to go, that I go quietly. That's it. And it's not a huge deal, and it's not dramatic. Just in my sleep, when I'm old, very old and accomplished, and I've done everything that I want to do, I'm putting that out into the universe. That would be a blessing. But, those are the things we can't control, right? So
right. The
control
unknown,
the
the
controllables.
uncertainty.
Yeah, the uncertainty.
Right? But having patience, that it just somehow all works out how it's supposed to.
Yeah, 100%.
That's beautiful.
100%.
To answer your question on my perspective of the fear and the greed, the way the book had put it, which was, people want to work because they have a fear of not having money to make money.
Yeah.
But then once they make the money, they start buying themselves nice things. And
Yeah.
then the greed comes in because they want more nice things.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Right? And so when it's set in that perspective, and I kind of like took a bird's eye view into it, I was like, man, there's a lot of truth there, especially when you come from a household that maybe money wasn't present. And so you always thought growing up was like, oh, well, when I have money, I can buy this and this and this, and then I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there's another perspective that maybe you grew up with that stuff and realized, well, that doesn't necessarily make me happy because I've already had it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So the greed part is interesting because, I mean, let's be honest, like without money, we wouldn't have our homes. We wouldn't have a lot of things.
Yeah. So, and we like, I think everybody likes nice things,
right.
To different degrees and to different scales, right? But, treat yourself every once in a while. And it's totally something that.
Right. So that greed part was interesting because it goes back to the thing like, is money ruling you or are you ruling money?
Interesting. Wow. Well, there you have it. It's the same principle as, are you working for the money or is the money working for you? Right.
Exactly.
And I think that, going back to your example, which I thought was a very valid point, as people or when people make a lot of money and they begin spending it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's well spent. Right. So
say that one more time. We all need to hear that again.
That when a person makes a lot of money and they begin spending it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's well spent. What does Robert Kiyosaki say on financial literacy and financial intelligence? Well, you need to be able to invest that money into assets that are going to generate you more income, right? And have the dollars work for you, not you work for the dollars, right? Because you can be making hundreds of thousands of dollars as an employee. But if you're spending that in the wrong places, then what happens when that employer says, hey, toodles, that's it, you're done, then what's going to happen then? So if you're able to not create richness but create wealth, that's a very clear distinction, is being able to create investments that will generate passive income that will allow you to live freely without having to work. But it takes time and patience, and financial literacy.
Right.
Yeah.
So something I really want to talk about on financial literacy.
Yeah. Okay.
Had to take a deep breath for this one.
Me too.
Yes. Is the education system. Something the book refers to as the education system is good at teaching you how to be an employee, but not an employer.
Correct. That is very accurate. Yes.
And both of us went to FIU for business and got our degrees in business.
Yes.
And I would really love to know your perspective on that.
Well, I'll give you this much. I think that it's definitely when we went to school, disregarding FIU in general, when people our generation went to school, right? Because I love FIU, go Golden Panthers, right? But
Panthers, baby, let's go
all
day, every day, baby.
Yeah,
shout out FIU.
Absolutely,
you gotta love them in the building.
Yeah, 100%. And I love my FIU family, and I have so much respect for my professors who taught me tons of what I know today, especially my sales professors. Man, those guys killed it. Rafael Soltero and Nancy Roseo, those are two of the people who really engraved sales in my brain and who opened up so many doors for me after graduating. But what we're going at here is people who went to college from our generation. Well, they don't necessarily, the colleges weren't necessarily involving entrepreneurship in their curriculums as much as they are now. So for example, in today's day and age, they do that. And for example, you have Dave Grutman, wonderful entrepreneur here in Miami and abroad, who teaches a class, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's at FIU, on entrepreneurship. I believe it's called the Dave Grutman Experience. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, and
let us know in the comments.
Anybody listening. I believe that's what the class is called. And from what I've seen, it shows students, the power of entrepreneurship, of how to own your own business and creating brands and brand value. So imagine the impact that has. We didn't have that when we went to college, right? And I think that's what the book is referring to precisely. Is saying, back in the day, you were taught to go to school, master a skill, graduate, work on that skill, done deal. Whereas what we're seeing in today's day and age is, sure, have that fundamental, knowledge. I do think that college forms your brain and it allows you to develop thinking and analytical skills that, yes, you might develop if you don't, but I think it's a good base to have, right? Gotcha. But it's definitely one component if you're looking into creating something bigger, right? Into becoming financially independent and becoming an entrepreneur, right? And I think that's something that, yes, back in the day, definitely universities didn't teach necessarily. Right. And I think that today's day and age, with this culture that has been, we're here talking about it, right? With this culture, with people like us that are here talking about, I think it's been an eye opener for the new generations, which have also impacted universities into saying, okay, we need to have these curriculums in place as well, because at the end of the day, it's true. I mean, it's invaluable to be able to learn that at a young age. Had I known what I know today when I was 20, imagine. I mean, wow.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
But I do think that, the path that we take is the one we're meant to take. And as long as we keep progressing, that's what matters.
Yeah. This is a fun little question for me.
Yeah.
I saw you post the other day of Gary Vee and the Veefriends cards, because I saw that you posted it. And when I saw you posted it, I was like, wait, this is like Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's like Sesame Street.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
That's exactly what he says. It's Pokemon meets Sesame Street. And the idea behind it, from what I understand, I learned about Veefriends initially through the NFT world. I've been following Gary Vee since before that. But, when he launched these NFTs and I saw the concept behind it, at the beginning I didn't understand, right? Because I'm like, what even is an NFT? Yeah. And he kept pushing, you need to learn what an NFT is, deep dive into YouTube, watch 100 videos. I'm like, you know what, whatever, I'm gonna do it. Let's just do it. And I remember it was Thanksgiving of 2020, maybe ish, and I deep dove into NFTs and I learned a lot. And I bought some and they failed miserably, but it's fine because I learned what I needed to learn.
Nice.
Not Veefriends, about other projects.
Yes.
Obviously, if it was Veefriends, it would have been wonderfully successful and we'd be having a different conversation about that. Yeah.
Awesome.
But to your question, Veefriends is a community that Gary Vee created. It's a super cool community because every Veefriend is attached to real life value, right? So for example, there is one that's called the Gift Goat. And the Gift Goat, if you own it, will allow you, I believe it's an X amount of gifts over the lifespan of the NFT, right?
Yeah.
It's a cap number of gifts, right? But then you get, for example, collectible sneakers, which are Veefriends with Reebok, or you get, for example, special, bomber jackets that are only available to those NFT holders. So they create the exclusivity and the scarcity, but at the same time the community. And they now have something that's called VeeCon, where we went to and participated in as a spectator.
Yeah.
But he personally invited me, and I was so happy that he invited me because I was like, this is fantastic. And it was a conference on entrepreneurship, and they had wonderful speakers such as like Jessica Alba and Neil Patrick Harris, and the CEO of Krispy Kreme, I believe, was there, and all these entrepreneurs speak about different perspectives, and it's all tied into Veefriends, which is that community that attends VeeCon, and I think it's so powerful what he's created and what he created and what he can replicate across different units of business.
He's
right?
An amazing entrepreneur.
It's incredible amazing. Man. Yeah.
Is there a favorite takeaway you have from this book?
I'd say spend time in educating yourself in the areas that will make a difference for your financial freedom in the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Examples that they gave: the person who purchases an apartment and says, I'm going to wait for it to increase in value, versus a person who understands what the market fluctuations look like in real estate, buys when they need to buy, and knows that the profit is made when they buy, not when they sell.
Gotcha.
I think that education in those areas is absolutely key.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anybody tuning in, financial literacy, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get into a fun little game that's a tradition here on this show. It's called word associations.
Okay.
So I'm going to say some words from the book.
Okay.
Some words not from the book. And you're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh. Whew.
Okay. There's no right or wrong. It's literally just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
It's a little fun.
It's exciting. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. Finance.
Wall Street.
Investment.
Gary Vee.
Asset.
Apartment.
Wealth.
Family and generations.
Cash flow.
The Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I love this.
For real. Like it really. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship.
My uncle.
Education.
FIU.
So go Panthers.
Yeah, go Panthers. No, for real. That's it.
Mindset.
Spirituality.
Speaking to my soul.
Yeah.
Leverage.
Contacts.
Income.
Investment.
Yes. Okay. Now these words are not from the book.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Not you.
This is where it can get
I feel
exciting.
like you got really nervous now. You're like,
oh no.
Rain.
Shine.
Oh, that was good.
I don't know why.
Ocean.
Spray.
Sunshine.
Happiness.
Lavender.
Childhood.
Butterfly.
Stomach.
That was good. Whisper.
Angel. Do you know why?
No.
It's not as cute as you think.
Oh.
It's just, Whispering Angel Rosé is one of my favorites.
I love Whispering Angel too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Shout out, we have Whispering Angel sponsors now.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I like Whispering Angel too. Castle.
France.
Ooh. Serenity.
Peace and love.
Sparkle.
Eyes.
Mountain.
Dew.
That was good. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for playing with us.
Appreciate you. Yay.
Thank you for shining your light, spreading your message, and letting us in on some entrepreneurship and some business mindset tools. It has been a pleasure having you here. Where can people find you?
I really appreciate you having me here, and I'm very excited that hopefully my 2 cents make an impact in someone's life.
They did on me, so I'm sure they do with whoever's listening.
Wonderful. And then where can you guys find me? Succulent Bite. That's SUCCULENTBITE on all social channels.
Yes, thank you. So there you have it, friends. Nico Norena. We just finished discussing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you want your copy today, make sure to click the link in the description below. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We want to hear your favorite takeaway from this episode. So make sure you let us know in the comments and turn the page. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.